Today on Think Smart with TMFG, Mike and I are going to be discussing how is a fee-based advisor different from a fee-for-service financial advisor.
So we see a lot of things about fee-based advisors. A lot of people get confused in that. They think they're the same thing, but they're really not, are they?
Not at all.
What is a fee-for-service? We know we're fee-based advisors, and we'll go through that in a bit, but let's talk about a fee-for-service advisor. What are they?
So typically people go to a fee-for-service advisor if they've got a specific financial situation that they want to get resolved. Maybe they're looking at buying a house, or maybe they've received an estate and they want to sort of figure out how that might incorporate into their financial plan. Probably the most common reason, though, is they want to get a financial plan done. They've got a portfolio, they've never had a financial plan done, they don't want to pay for someone to manage their money, they just want to get a financial plan done.
I guess a lot of ways it comes out, what I guess is supposed to be put as a cheaper way to manage your finances. We'll go into that later because it's not always as cheap, but when we talk about the cost, to get a reasonable plan done by someone who's well-trained, let's say a CFP in there, a certified financial planner, how much are you going to pay for that?
Probably somewhere on the low end, maybe $2,500 up to $20,000. If yours is really complicated with lots of corporations, you could pay $40,000, $50,000.
Yeah, I've seen families that have spent over $100,000 to have plans done with big corporations where they're trying to put everything together. I mean, it's a big undertaking to figure out all the family dynamics. I guess you can also pay per hour too.
Yeah, so you're going to pay $250, $500 for an hour. If you've got a real expert, someone who's one of the top in Canada, you might pay $750, $1,000 an hour.
Similar to a lawyer, right?
You're getting up to lawyer fees for sure.
And you got to remember, when you talk about hourly charges, it's not just the hour you sit in front of the advisor, it's all the work that has to be done. So maybe you have a meeting with an advisor for an hour, but that's not 1 hour worth of charge. There might be 5 hours or 10 hours worth of work of putting that plan together.
I'm going to look at, one of the good things about the plan. It really is detailed. It's, 40, 50 pages. It looks at every aspect of your financial life, insurance, estate, giving kids money if you've got children, investments, your risk profile, you name it, it's got it in there.
And cash flows is a big piece of it, so they'll manage all that. So yeah, they are very comprehensive, good plans. So I guess now you talk about what's the problem. I guess it comes up with implementation, doesn't it?
Well, many years ago, you and I used to have very detailed financial plans prepared by a third party.
Yeah.
And it was internal, and we would get these great financial plans. My first problem is we'd sit down to present the plan, and the very first thing that would happen is the client would say to me, "Oh, by the way, I knew this was important, and I actually found that we have another account here with $200,000 that I'd forgotten to mention."
And that was a nightmare. Had to go back to the drawing board.
Well, it literally changed everything,
Yep.
right? You've got this detailed plan, this book that you're going to give them, and now there's a $200,000 investment that's missing, or there's a life insurance policy that they had forgotten about that they discovered. And so you feel like you've got to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, we found that process just very, very painful because the time of getting things done, it was too long.
So the next thing is every one of these fee-for-service plan has a detailed information strategy. How you should go about doing this first, this second, this third, this fourth. But remember, you've just hired this person to prepare the plan. It's really back to you to implement the plan and to get the whole thing going.
Well, this is the key. I've had people come with these plans, and they've actually had a plan and say, "Can you implement the investment strategy?" So they have one person doing the plan, and then another person implementing the financial strategy. Even worst case scenarios, I've seen some of the planners put 5 people in charge of implementing the financial strategies. They'll say, "Well, take your fixed income and go to this mortgage dealer. Take the equities and go to this stockbroker. Go see this real estate person to get a real estate portion of your portfolio." And you have all these people who aren't working together trying to make the plan work, and one doesn't know what the other one's doing.
So it's like you're trying to bake a cake, but you've asked 5 people to bring different ingredients that are already cooked.
Yeah, they say too many chefs spoils the...
And you're going to try and put it all together into this perfect recipe. That's good if the ingredients are raw, but if the ingredients are already cooked, it's not going to work too well.
Everyone adds a bit of salt, and then at the end of the day, you have too salty of a meal, right?
There's also the question of if the fee-for-service advisor has referred you to 4 different people, are they being compensated for that referral to any of those people? You don't know. You're just guessing. Unless the fee-for-service advisor is very upfront and says, I get compensated here, I get compensated there. But then they may give you a percent, they may not, they may give you a dollar value, they may just say we work on a referral arrangement. It can get really complicated.
It's hard to trust people too. Now you don't have to have one person you trust. Now you have to have 4 different people you trust. And you don't know if their business is going well, if they're gonna be leaving the business, anything that's going on like that. That can affect you in all different pieces of your portfolio. So it's not a great strategy.
Next up is follow-up, right? So follow-up is important. You need someone to make sure that that plan is getting fully implemented.
This is where I find it really falls off. When people do the pay for a plan, they can also pay to have follow-ups done. So they'll pay $20,000 for a plan and they can pay, let's say, $5,000 a year to follow up. They usually stop. And that becomes the essence of where problems start.
So why is it? Why would you stop? Well, you spent 20. Now you got a bill for 5 just to go see a guy.
Yeah.
Are you going to go see your family doctor for an annual checkup if it's going to cost $5,000?
Yeah.
Well, that's essentially what you're doing with a fee-for-service advisor. You're going to pay $5,000 just to go in for a checkup to get another checklist of all the things you didn't do, all the things you're supposed to do, and it's back on you to do it.
We've seen this many times when we look at the banks many years ago were guilty of this. They would create a beautiful financial plan for someone when they signed them up. And when we'd ask clients, when was the last time you revised your financial plan? They said, well, I did one 10 years ago when I got signed up. I haven't touched it since. The plan is 10 years old. And plans are not static items. They're a very fluid type of situation where it has to be dynamic and it has to be adjusted.
We just finished, as everyone knows, completing our new office, and we had a blueprint on how we're going to do things. But once we started construction, things kept changing. Oh, this isn't going to work the way we thought it was going to work. So we had to revise not the blueprint itself, but we actually had to revise what we were building.
How many times we've done a plan and then someone says, my daughter needs help with buying a house. And we go and we take a look at everything. Now you have to build all this into the plan. That might not have been the original plan. It might have been not in the original thoughts of what was going to happen in your life. But these things do happen along the way, and you have to make adjustments.
Let's go back to another big issue. There's so many people involved. If we look at our situation, we meet with our clients minimum twice a year, hopefully at least 3 times a year. We're actively we know what's going on in their financial life and even in their personal life. If you've got 4 different people running the portfolio, are you seeing them each once a year or maybe twice a year, at least twice a year, which you should be?
Yeah.
And then how often are you going back to the person who created the plan in the first place?
That's 8 to 12 meetings a year you now have, which is a lot of time to take.
So it's difficult for everyone. I think the follow-up is difficult. I'm not saying it's horrible. If you're really good at following directions, implementing the plan yourself, you've got a clarification on where you're at, you're one of those 20 people that can just do it all on your own, manage your own money. It's a perfect strategy.
I think what people don't realize, there's a lot of work involved in running a portfolio. What do we have, 20, 21 staff here to run our clients' portfolios? And they're all busy all the time. It's a lot of work to run your own portfolio. And I think people underestimate how much time is involved and how much effort's involved in actually managing a portfolio.
You use the term managing the portfolio. I think it's the 21 people that are here helping to manage the financial plan and the client's financial lives, their needs. Do they need income? Do they want to increase their savings? They're selling their house. What should they do? A spouse has passed away. What should they do? All of those things, that's what you need the team for.
Where there's so much follow-up, you have to follow up with firms to make sure things get done. And you're always dealing with CRA. I mean, the phone calls with CRA can be endless, and you have to know how CRA works, know what the rules are, and understand how to work with them. And they change too. Like CRA, think of what we went through in the last year. With the change in capital gains, it's changed 15 times since they announced it. It's hard to find anyone that's up to date on how to deal with these things.
If you take on managing the portfolio, or if you use the strategy from the fee-based advisor, which is to have maybe 3 or 4 different managers managing it, my experience is the work really isn't delegated. It's really falling back on you. What happens, for example, if 3 of the 4 managers have really good returns, one doesn't?
I have to go find a new manager.
Well, that would be your inclination to go fire the one manager and stick with the other three, or replace the fourth manager.
Time to do research.
What happens next year when two of the four managers don't perform well?
Yeah.
And yet, when you've got a financial advisor, it's a little bit different. You're meeting them so regularly, they're in charge of all the different managers. You don't have to worry about it. It's not your job, it's their job.
And they have enough people to go and do the research to find who should be, if someone wasn't managed incorrectly, they have the time to do the research to find out who should be replacing them.
Next up, Mike, accountability. Talk about accountability.
Accountability is when we talk about, let's say, your financial plan, there's certain things that you have to do. Let's say you're planning for retirement. You have to do a certain amount of savings. Now, when people come to our office and they're planning on their retirement, we look at their savings and see if it's going to take care of their retirement when they get to that point. And many people, if they're not held accountable, will rather go spend that on goods rather than savings. You need someone they have to answer to and go, hey, I know you went and bought a nice car last year, but you didn't put enough in your RSP. And if you keep on doing that, you're going to have a real tough time retiring at 65. And you need someone to hold you accountable for your savings, for your spending, and for all your financial affairs.
You know, I think in investing, for me, I'm going to use an example. It's a bit like trying to stay healthy and trying to stay on a diet. It's really easy. You know, I drop a couple pounds on the scale. The next thing I know, I'm having a little late night snack, and maybe I do that for 3 or 4 days in a row, and before I know it, boom, I'm back to where I started or even above. Saving and investing is very similar. If you haven't got someone to keep you accountable for what you're doing, it's really easy to slip up.
Well, other things, even outside of that, who's accountable for making sure you have a will done up? If you're not meeting with a financial advisor, do any of your friends or family come up to you and say, hey, do you have your will done up? Very rarely, right? It's never asked of you. But when you go see your financial advisor, they're going to say, hey, is your will done? Is it up to date? Do you need any changes in here? And going to hold you accountable to make sure that stuff is all in good order.
So we're here doing this podcast in April. Markets have, since the beginning of the month, been extremely volatile. And we've had lots of clients, not lots, but clients just check in. Maybe they send a quick email, says, should I be doing anything? That's all it says. And you can reply back, absolutely not. You know our strategy. So they've got someone they can call, email, text very quickly, check in with, just to make sure, is everything okay? Am I okay? Or if they want to come in for a meeting, they can do that as well. So how does that work if you're working with a fee-for-service advisor?
There's no one really to talk to at that time. Anytime we've seen companies have implemented, let's say, non-advisor strategies, they've always been very unsuccessful because when we look at the numbers, the money moves in the wrong way. You know, there was a fund company that used to push 20 years ago, I won't put names in there, to have everyone do it themselves. They never lasted because every time the markets would go down, all the money would be pulled from the equity funds and it would go to the bonds funds. And their equity managers couldn't manage a portfolio because anytime we went through any type of financial stress, all the assets would leave and they'd be forced to sell. Create, number one, all these tax issues, and number two, they couldn't take advantage of a low market and buy anything because all the money was being pulled from their fund.
So let's sort of review what we've covered. You know, why aren't we big believers? Why haven't we become fee advisors? Plain and simple. Implementation is difficult. We had a lot of experience with detailed financial plans that really never got implemented. Follow-up is difficult. It's a static plan. Whereas life isn't static. It changes every day. The world changes every day. Your life changes all the time. Your needs, your wishes, what you want to accomplish even changes over time. People need to be involved in the plan to make it work. And so you've got too many people involved, you actually go nowhere. A lot of the time the work falls back on you. The whole goal of being financially, if you can delegate some of being financially successful, that's huge. Accountability, and as we just talked about, investor behavior would be some of the toughest reasons. Anything else that, you know, when you think of fee-for-service versus fee-based that you think our audience should know, why they may want to reconsider moving to a fee-for-service advisor?
I think if you move for a fee-based advisor, your life becomes simpler. If you're doing for a fee-for-service advisor, I think it adds more complexity to your life many times.
That brings us to the end of another week. This is Rob and Mike with Think Smart from the McClelland Financial Group of Asante Capital Management.